In this video, you'll see a detailed explanation of each of the assignment parameters you can apply to both recording and standard activities. To reach these settings, you'll start from the assignment tool within your account, and you can see more about creating an assignment in the other videos in this series. The additional parameters will show depending on the type of page that you've assigned. There are three main page types within VOCEs. There are pages that do not have any student input, such as stories or vocabulary lessons. There are pages that are standard activities, which are every activity type aside from recording. And then, of course, there are student recording activities. The options for these page types will be a little bit different. So for example, on pages with no student input, you won't have additional parameters like submission limit or prevention of leaving, any of those options. On a standard activity, you'll have several options that we see here, and some of these options are just for recording activities, so I'll make a note of that as we go. The first option you have is to apply a submission limit. This can only be applied to standard activities, and it limits the amount of times a student can submit the assignment before the due date. The only exception is if you are using an open-ended deadline. In that case, the submission limit would apply both before and after the due date. Second is prevent leaving. Prevent leaving will keep the students from going to any other page within VOCEs, another browser tab or window, anytime they leave the activity page itself. The students will get at least one warning, so the minimum amount of warnings you can set is one, but you can raise that number. For example, a lot of teachers like to do 3 strikes, you're out, so they'll set 2 warnings. This means the students will get a warning the first 2 times they leave the page, and that third time they leave, the work will be submitted to the teacher. Next up is single record. This is an option that can only be applied to student recording activities, and it will limit their recording attempts to once per audio on the activity. Then we have automated recording. This is another option that can only be applied to student speaking activities, and it will work a little bit differently with listening and speaking or interpersonal tasks than it will with one-sided recording or presentational speaking tasks. With interpersonal, the students will start the activity. The program will wait a few seconds and then automatically start playing the first audio. After the audio finishes, it will automatically start recording the students until they click the stop button. This will continue on until the page is completed. If it is a one-sided or presentational speaking activity, the program will wait 60 seconds after the student starts the activity to automatically begin recording. Again, the student will click stop, and that will continue on until the activity is completed. The next option is the timer. This can be applied to any activity type, and it will set the time the students have to complete the entire activity. This can be set in any increment, so you can set it to any amount of minutes that you'd like to. Once the timer counts down to 0, the work will be automatically submitted. The recording timer is again one that can only be applied to recording activities, and this will set a time limit for each audio recording. Again, on interpersonal activities, this would limit their response to each question. On presentational, it would limit each audio response to this amount of seconds. Require set percentage is an example of a parameter that's best used with automatically graded activities and without a submission limit. This allows you to set a minimum passing percentage, and the assignment will be listed as incomplete until they reach that required percentage. These next 2 options allow you to control what the students see after they submit the assignment. Clear on retake will clear their previous answers each time they load the assignment. So each time they go to attempt it, they'll see a blank page. The review settings allows you to set and control when students review their answers, as well as whether or not they can see the correct answers. If you set this to after due date has passed, all students in all classes will be able to review after the final due date has passed for that assignment. Immediately after submission would allow them to review their work immediately after submitting. And teacher controlled would allow you to manually open and close that review. By default, we will not show the students the correct answers, but if you check this box, then the students will see the answer key when they're allowed to review. One thing to note is that while the correct answers are showing on the student screen, they will not be able to submit or edit their answers. That covers all of the extra parameters you can set on both standard and recording activities. Of course, if you do have any questions about these or anything else within VOCEs, please don't hesitate to reach out using the question mark icon within your account.